Hey, what's happening? Welcome back to the Vacant Light. I'm back today with another video review. I had promised you a review of Quo Vadis' album Day into Night, but my little surprise for that album is taking a bit longer to get together than I'd hoped. So, in the meantime, I'm going to review this compilation album from Northern Heritage Records called Crushing the Holy Trinity. Now, this compilation album consists of 3 discs, and each disc has music from 2 different bands. Today, I'm just going to, in this particular review, I'm just going to review Father, which is the first of the 3 discs. Now, Father is a album or a disc that basically contains music from Deathspell Omega and from Stabat Mater. And there's only 2 tracks on here. The first track being called Diabolus Absconditus by Deathspell Omega. If you know Deathspell Omega at all, you know that they've made other very long tracks in the past. Songs like Chain the Catachan and Mass Grave Aesthetics. And this song is 22 minutes long and pretty epic track. Now the song basically consists of 2 major parts. The beginning and ending of the song are fairly typical black metal fare, while the middle section is more of a jazzy and creative musical outlet for the band. Now the beginning and ending parts are pretty much guitar and vocal driven, as is much of the black metal music out there. The drumming for those parts is pretty low key in terms of the mix, and there's pretty much no bass playing to be heard on those particular sections at all. Now what the band does with the beginning and ending of the song is pretty much ignore the concept of standard melody in a song. Instead of doing that, they create very sort of dissonant and almost atonal music, but not quite to the extent of it as on other tracks, for example, songs on Pericletus. Now, the music itself on the beginning and ending of the song doesn't really move forward in a way that you would usually expect music to move. The music is very intentionally stagnant and builds on top of itself by adding minor variations like, for example, guitars almost sounding like they're fading out of tune as they play, to create a very very dark and brooding atmosphere to the song. Now, when you first listen to the song, the beginning and ending sections make it sound like you're trapped in the song. Like they're fairly repetitive, and as I said, they don't progress much. But that actually does serve a purpose, and that purpose is basically leading up to and concluding from the middle section of the song. Now, in terms of production, the middle section on its own is basically like a completely separate track. The guitars are not as distorted. Even though the guitars in the beginning and end are not overly distorted, they're even less distorted in the middle part, giving it a very jazzy vibe. Now, the vocals are not quite as aggressive there. They're more spoken and whispered. The drumming is more simmering, like keeps the song a little bit energetic, and it keeps it like sort of sustaining a particular energy that's not typical of black metal music. Now, the interesting thing that happens in the middle section is that the bass playing actually really gets introduced. A very warm bass sound, which would have probably sounded out of place in the other parts of the song, really comes in and helps promote those whispered sort of vocals and sweeping guitar with interesting ambient effect put on it. Now, for that reason, I really feel that the song is a good track, because even though the beginning and ending may not quite compare to other songs, for example, Chain the Catachan, which had a very epic ending and really culminated in something, the actual culmination of the track is in the middle section. Sweeping jazz melody and rhythms influencing sort of a black metal style, and more emphasis on the clarity of the vocals. So overall, I'd say Diabolus Absconditus is a good track, and although I didn't enjoy it as much as, say, Chain the Catachan on the first listen, I do find it more and more enjoyable now, and this song really warrants several listens, so you can really figure out what you like about it and let it grow on you a little bit. Now the second track on here is a song called Above Him by Stabat. This is also a long track, where the first track was 22 minutes long. This track is about 18 minutes long, so still quite lengthy, which again is not atypical of Stabat Mater. If you listen to their first full-length album, which came after this in 2009, I believe, they actually had a 20-minute track on there. So they do like to build up those epic atmospheric tracks. Now, Stabat Mater's music is considered to be funeral doom metal, which basically means that it takes influence from black metal, ambient music, and also from doom metal. And the main focus is on extremely sludgy guitar work and slow, sustained vibes. Now, the mix on here is pretty much, again, guitar and vocal oriented with a little bit of drumming thrown in there. Don't really expect to hear much properly audible bass work. Like, you're not going to hear any major bass riffs or anything on here. One of the focal points of Stabat Mater is actually lyrical content, and sort of the one member and only member of Stabat Mater, Mikko Aspa, who is also the vocalist from Deathspell Omega, really does talk about a lot of philosophical and religious concepts, which again is not dissimilar from Deathspell Omega in terms of that style. And on this particular track, I find there's a lot of lyrics related to this discussion of the relationship between mankind and religion. So it's pretty interesting. Now, in terms of the musical construction and the riffs, the song really consists of just pretty much two riffs, and it's very minimalistic in what it does. Now, the way the music stays interesting is that one of the two riffs is pretty much just instrumental, and then the second riff has vocals put over top of it. And because of the slow nature of the music, the listener really can be in expectation of the next riff coming up, as they know it's going to transition into a new and interesting vocal section on that, on that basically second riff. So I found for that reason that even though if you look at this song on paper, it is very repetitive, it's a combination between that anticipation and also some of the very distorted and interesting guitar effects that were put onto this, that you really find yourself being pulled into the lyrics and the atmosphere of this song. Now, the easiest song to compare this to is the band's title track from their self-titled album called Stabat Mater. Now, this song maybe isn't quite as blatantly atmospheric, and when I say that, I mean that there's not as many different sections put in, like not as many clean vocals or other kinds of sections put into the song. But I found that on repeated listens, just that anticipation level and the pure sludginess and guitar tone of this song kept me really interested. Now, overall, I'd like to say that both of these tracks are quite enjoyable in first listen, but do actually grow on you quite a bit on repeated listens. And out of the two songs, I think I'd actually prefer Stabat Mater's track, just because there's a little bit more consistency in the song. So that's what I had for today, at least for this video. Thanks a lot for watching, and do check this album out. It's really interesting and has some pretty creative material on it. Thanks a lot, and goodbye.